rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice. Sunday's liturgy really dominates the whole of the week. And in a beautiful way, this past Sunday, we were celebrating what we call Rejoice Sunday. And what were we rejoicing over? We were rejoicing over the gift of Jesus' paschal mystery. His passion, his death, and his resurrection is drawing near. And so that means that the gift of our salvation is drawing near. And our hearts are rejoicing. And I thought no better way as we enter into this middle of this week of rejoicing than we celebrate the other great mystery of our faith, the mystery of the incarnation, the mystery of Jesus, the Word becoming flesh and dwelling among us. Yes, truly, God has become one with us in all things but sin. Why? So that we could become one with him, that we could become partakers of his divine nature, that we could become partakers of his divine life. Today we celebrate what? The feast of the Annunciation of the Lord. And this is when the Archangel Gabriel comes to our Blessed Mother to reveal the plan of God, of the gift of our salvation. This is the beginning of our salvation. And so today we celebrate this beautiful gift of the angel to our lady. One of the beautiful gifts I find as I was reflecting upon the mystery of the incarnation is the virtue of obedience and the importance and the beauty and the power of that gift. You think about it, God, the Word, became one with us. And if you think about it, he became one through obedience. He obeyed the Father's will for his life, and he left heaven to become one with us as man. It's hard to fathom and hard to even imagine. But then also we look at the gift of obedience for our life. What does it do? But it allows us to become one with God. You know, obedience, and you think about that great gift of obedience. Obedience is to what? It is to listen with the desire to act. The purpose of obedience is to lead us to the purpose of our life. It's a union with God. And so today we're celebrating this mystery and this gift. And I think the Lord has given us some beautiful witnesses in today's feast day to remind us of the power of this gift. The first and the foremost one, of course, is the Archangel Gabriel. And maybe we forget, but how important his role is in being obedient to the Father and to his will. The Father reveals the plan to the Archangel of how he's going to come to save his people. And, you know, if you think about it, he did the same thing with the great angel Lucifer, the angel of light. And how did the angel of light respond to this plan? He said, I will not serve. He didn't want a God who became man to be over him. And so he refused. Yet today we don't see that refusal. Today we see the archangel accepting. He's accepting the will of God in his life, for his life. And he goes and does what the Father asked, and you see that. Imagine if the Archangel Gabriel said no. Then how would Our Lady known the plan of God, and how would she have been able to assent to that plan of God in her life? You know, I was reflecting on that in our own lives. You know, God is calling us to as well. And when we embrace the will of God in our life, we don't realize but how that affects so many others so that they know the plan of God and they know the will of God in their life. You know, I only stop and I reflect about the reality of how many people have affected us so that we would come to know the will of God and then we have the grace and the strength to do that will of God. You know, God communicates to us, but he often communicates to us in the very normal means through our relationships and our families. So whether it was our parents, our grandparents, aunts or uncles, brothers or sisters, extended family members, you know, how has God shared his will with us? How has he revealed that plan of God to us through them? Of course, the most perfect witness of doing the will of the Father is our Lord himself. You know, Jesus, as I said, leapt from heaven and leapt into the womb of our Blessed Mother. And that's what we're celebrating today. The gift of salvation is drawn near to us. God has become one with us. But think about Jesus' life. He says to us that his food was to do the will of the Father. So whether that was leaping from heaven into the womb of our Blessed Mother, or whether that was in his passion and his death, or anything in between, everything Jesus did, he did first and foremost because it was the will of the Father. He never did nothing on his own or apart from that will. In a very beautiful way today, I was thinking about St. Paul's words of what Jesus, when he leapt from heaven, he called it emptying himself, kenosis. And I think really the virtue of obedience does that. It allows us to empty ourselves of any of our self-concern, our self-worry. And it allows us to surrender ourselves to the Father and to the plan of the Father for our life. And that's our Lord. Our Lord is emptying himself. And that's tough, isn't it? It's tough to empty ourselves because we're not in control when we empty ourselves. We got to let somebody else be in that control. I was thinking about the gift of obedience, the ability to listen and to dispose one's heart to the heart of the other, and to receive that and to act upon that, the desire to act upon that, even when it goes against our will, our way, our thoughts. We still surrender ourselves to that plan. Wow, that's what our Lord did. That's what our Lord, he did. He shows us most perfectly where, but in his passion and death. I mean, in the garden, there is our Lord, and he's in prayer, and he's sweating blood. And what lies at the heart of that prayer is what? His desire to do the will of God. And so what does he cry out? Let this chalice pass by me, but not my will, but not my will. Your will be done. And then, of course, on the cross, just before our Lord gives over his complete self, that obedience even unto death on the cross, what does he cry out? Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. And what does the Father? He receives the gift of the Son. The Son gives over everything completely to the Father. You know, I find Lent a lot like this for us. You know, God is calling us to this kenosis, this self-emptying, the emptying of ourselves. And I have to be honest, it isn't easy. This has been probably one of the more challenging Lents for me in the sight of obedience. You know, I think I know better. And sometimes I think I know better than even my own superiors. And the temptation is to do what I think I should do and not to do what God is desiring or asking of me. And it takes tremendous death and dying to myself, to my desires, to my ways, to surrender, to give over like Jesus does in the garden, to his ways, to the Father's ways. Who better for us to turn to than our Blessed Mother on this feast day today, who cries out, behold, I am the handmaiden of the Lord. Be it done unto me according to your word. Her fiat today that she gives in the gospel is a fiat she gives every day of her life, every moment of her life. She, like our Lord, always did the will of the Father. Her last words to us in the sacred scriptures is what? Do whatever he tells you. Sometimes that's easy, but sometimes that's not. May Our Lady, as we continue our Lenten journey, help us to make that self-emptying, that kenosis, to give myself most fully to God, to his plan, and to his will. In good times, in bad, in sickness, and in health. May we surrender ourselves to his divine love. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. God bless you all. Happy feast day.